Morning. I'd first of all just like to apologise for the photograph in the front of the thing. But then again, having said that, I could have done a Miley Cyrus, so I suppose it's... Right, on the 2nd of March 2012, our lives changed forever. We never even heard of osteosarcoma, let alone how terrible a form of cancer it was. And after complaining about an ache in her left leg, we took Lucy to our local GP. GP turned around and said it was swollen, gave her an anti-inflammatory. Christmas came and went, and she went back to school. On Thursday, just after Christmas, I picked her up from school, and as she ran across the school playground towards me, her leg just buckled straight underneath her. I took her to the X-ray for an X-ray, and we was told we'd be staying in. The next morning, we'd be having a MRI and a CT scan. The rest, as they say, is history. Lucy had her chemotherapy at Sheffield Children's Hospital and a limb salvage operation in Birmingham in November of the same year. February of this year, she had a left lung operated on. March of this year, she had a right lung operated on. So finally, it's all over and we've got it sorted, right? Well, wrong. June this year, we was given the news that it was back in her pelvis on the right side and in her left lung. That's the next sentence that will haunt me for the rest of my life when our our specialist turned around and told us basically that there was nothing more that they could do for her. Now Lucy's 7 years old, and actually at that time she was only 6 years old. And the next day, strangely enough, we was in Leeds at a certain bone seminar. So it was quite a difficult time then. Anyway, our oncologist arranged some radiotherapy for her, and she started third-line chemo, and she's doing remarkably well. Still running around, still giving me and mum grief, the usual things that 7-year-olds do. She never gives up, and she's always laughing. But obviously, what about me and my wife, Katrina? When we speak to people, they always say to us, well, I bet you get loads of support, I bet there's loads of help out there for people. So when you sort of turn around and say, well, actually, not as much as you think, they're quite surprised. We all go to the oncologists and they give us leaflets, they give us information, they take information down, and then, you go away. And then you think, hang on, I think a bit silly here because I didn't answer that question, I didn't ask that question, I didn't quite understand that other question. But you won't go back and you won't ring up, you won't ask that question because you'll think that you've not been interested in what they've been saying. So why don't, amongst all the information they give us, why don't they ask if they would like the Bone Cancer Research Trust to contact them, get in touch with them, and then maybe put someone in touch with them as a mentor, somebody who has been there, seen there, in our case got the t-shirt. From time to time we need a little bit of help, we need a shoulder, or we need a bit of advice on how to get our child to eat, or even do the physiotherapy. And to have someone there is a good way of doing this. One of the biggest things that myself and my wife have had to deal with is the day-to-day emotions of life. You've still got bills to pay, you've still got washing to do, cooking to do, ironing to do, you've still got to take the kids to school. And in amongst all that, you have to take your child to hospital sometimes for 7 days at a time. And ours was 85 miles away, so there was no pressure there at all. If between the groups that are setting up, and I know there's a few of us here, we could maybe get together, help raise the profile of what we're trying to do amongst schools, our youth clubs, spread the word that not all pains are actually growing pains. And finally to put some pressure on the government to supply some more funding towards the more rarer cancers, particularly ours. Now, if you'd let me, I'd like to tell you the story of a thing that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. My wife's an engineer, and I'm Lucy's full-time carer. But what I do in the evenings is I do a little business that I set up, and it helps people save money and in some ways helps people make money. And we had a conference in Bradford about 4 weeks ago. And a friend of mine was doing a motivational speech on the stage. And he told the story of a Canadian gentleman by the name of Terry Fox. Now some of you may have heard of Terry Fox. some of you, as I, had never heard of him. But this picture appeared on a screen similar to that of a gentleman, young lad, who was a right leg amputee, who had osteosarcoma. Now, while he was in hospital receiving treatment for his osteosarcoma and having his cancer, he realised that in Canada there wasn't a great deal of research and money being given to people with rare forms of cancer. So he hatched an idea. He was a young man, as I say, and he was very, very keen on his sports. Excellent basketball player, good golfer. He liked playing his soccer, as they call it over there. So his idea was to run from one side of Canada to the other, doing a marathon a day. And people tried to talk him out of it. They looked at every possible excuse for him to fail, but eventually he was ready to go. He dipped his right leg in the Atlantic Ocean and he filled 2 bottles of water, one that he was going to keep as a souvenir and one that he was planning to drop into the Pacific when he got to the other side. His aim was to raise £1 for every Canadian, which is approximately $24 million, or sorry, $1 for every Canadian, which is approximately $24 million. However, after 143 days of suffering from pain from his good leg, from suffering pain from the stump from his right leg, through snow, through rain, through ice, through when he got to the French part of Canada, almost being run over by the drivers there who didn't want to seem to stop for him, he got a sharp pain in his chest and had to stop. Tests at a local hospital showed that his cancer had come back, and this time it was in his lungs. Now, he hoped to complete this run at a later date, but unfortunately 9 months later Terry Fox passed away. Now his determination and strength, the strength and determination of Terry Fox, his name and achievements live on today in the Marathon of Hope. Sorry, I've lost what I'm saying now. Marathon of Hope. He run for 143 days and he ran for 3,300 miles before he actually had to stop. Now, have you ever had one of them moments when you're in a room, and I'm getting one now actually, where you have a picture on the wall or you have a photograph and the eyes follow you? It doesn't matter where you are in that room, those eyes are on you. A bit like, as I say, I'm getting quite nervous about this now. I had one of them moments in that room because for that short period of time there was 3,000 people in that seminar, and for that short moment there was 3 people. There was Stefan, who's the gentleman who's a good friend of mine who was doing the motivational speech. There was me sat 2 rows at the front, and there was this inspirational gentleman by the name of Terry Fox whose eyes were following me all around the room. It gave me a kick up the backside, this, and it made me realise that we need to do more to raise the profile, raise the awareness. So, I have a Terry Fox moment. I had it there, and I had it when I came home. As you can see, I am not exactly built for speed. In fact, we was on holiday recently, and it wasn't until one of the parents came up and told the kids to stop putting water on me that I was actually sunbathing and not waiting for the tide to come in to join the rest of the whales that were out at sea. But my Terry Fox moment is this. I'm suggesting that we maybe do a walk next year. Now everybody's done a walk, but the walk I want to suggest is we go from east of the country to the west of the country, and this week stopping here on Bone Cancer Awareness Week, and then continuing on, and call it the Walk for Awareness. Okay, so I'm looking for some volunteers. Now I'm going to have to get seriously fit for this. So I've already started my programme at home, which I'm also doing as a sponsor to raise some money, but I've got a show of hands if anyone's interested. Oh, love it. Yeah, we'll be going round with contracts later on. So, that's me done. Thank you very much for listening, and let's get going.